one of those, two of those awards, one of them was a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Right.
You have about 15 books taught on collegiate level for 50 years.
There you go.
Culinary historian. Mm-hmm. And if I may say it right, one of those books is named High on the Hog, and from that is the Netflix series that they have. But I want to jump into you. I saw an interview, and you stated, I was cooking when it wasn't cool.
Okay, that's actually what I said when I got one of the James Beard Awards.
Yes.
And that was they put my books, and I got to correct you on that.
Please do.
You know what happens, and you probably know this, but I'm just going to, you write something, you put it online, and then people don't necessarily know the update.
Okay.
So it's actually 18 books.
Great.
Only 12 are about food, and 3 James Beard Awards.
Amazing. Congratulations.
No, it's just
I gotta give
just
it to you.
so nobody calls in and goes, "What's she
that wrong?"
talking about?" You know. So there's that. But it is my honor to be here and my privilege.
Yes.
And you know, I know it's Big B, and I told you that was your nom de guerre. I
Yes.
used to teach French.
Okay.
I started out teaching French, and then I moved to teaching English composition
Okay.
during those 50 years, so way longer than you've been on the planet.
Okay.
And I also know that your grandma calls you Brandon. So
Yes.
I may alternate between the two.
Love it. Love it. So when cooking wasn't cool.
Well, cooking has not always been cool, and cooking for Black folks, African Americans, we've been doing it for so long. And we did it for so long being unpaid or underpaid, or certainly undervalued, with no one giving us any credibility or credence or belief behind our abilities, that it has not been cool. One of the great African American chefs of the 20th century was a guy named Patrick Clark, who cooked in New York City, and who was actually asked by the Clintons to become what would have been the first official Black White House chef, and refused it. But when Patrick was getting ready to go into chef school, his father, who had been a chef, didn't want him to be a chef.
Wow.
Because he said, you know, it was undervalued, unloved work. But Patrick became chef right on that crux. The Department of Labor at one point moved being a chef out of being sort of domestic work into being kind of white collar work. And that's when the big switch took place. That's when people started going to culinary school. I am unfortunately old enough to remember when culinary school was for the dumb kids. You know, smart kids didn't go to culinary school.
Okay.
You know, it was all those folks that were sitting in the back of the classroom playing
Right.
that went to culinary school after they did woodworking.
Wow.
You know?
Okay.
And now they're both making more money than anybody, because you
Exactly.
could try to find a carpenter
Right.
and try to find a chef.
Right.
So that world changed, and it's always interesting because it can change.
Yes.
You know, so you never know. But the whole idea of cooking when cooking wasn't cool.
Yes.
You know.
We talked about, you just recently talked about being a professor, teaching French, and then teaching English composition. Where in that spectrum did you get into being a journalist for Essence?
Okay, well, here's how it goes. Let's see if I can get it right. You kids have something nowadays called a side hustle.
Oh, yes, always.
Okay, well, there you go. Journalism was my side hustle.
Oh, okay.
Journalism was my side hustle that kind of ran parallel with teaching
Okay.
for all of those 50 years. And then gradually the side hustle became more and more and more. And then we got to a point where people started doing this new field that they called food studies, And I looked around and thought, well, I've been doing that for years. I mean, another thing that I have said that you didn't catch me on yet is I also said I was doing Anthony Bourdain before Anthony Bourdain was doing Anthony Bourdain, because that whole idea of food and culture and history and people is what has fascinated me for years. So that's the side hustle that became the hustle. That's how I got into food.
And being that journalist for Essence, you have traveled all over the world.
I've traveled all over the world. I was very, very, very fortunate. You know, sometimes it's the luck of the draw. It's, if you will, God at work. It is karmic or whatever. I had extraordinary parents. I am a late child. My mother had me when she was 35 years old. And trust me, 75 years ago, 35 years old, for somebody having a baby was geriatric.
Wow.
It was like unheard of, you know. And because it was so late in their lives, relatively speaking, they just poured things, showered me with all kinds of stuff. It wasn't that they were, you know, upper middle class or any of that stuff. What they were was aspirational. And since they'd had all of the fun that they felt they could, you know, they had a whole lot more fun after I got here, but they had had enough fun so that once I got here, they sort of doubled down on me. And so because of that, they sent me to an extraordinary school. I went to a private school. I'm also an only child, so they only had one child to do this with. It wasn't like there was a whole lot of us crumb snatchers running around. There was only me. So they kind of poured that into me. I went to a school called the United Nations International School. And I was the first child to go there who was not connected with the UN. And so it means that I grew up with people from all over the world. I have a girlfriend who lives in Wales in England who calls me first friend because we were quite literally each other's first friends. I have known her since nursery school.
Amazing.
Okay. I have other friends from India, from, you know, around the world whom I have known since I was in, you know, first grade, second grade, nursery school, around there. And then because the UN school was structured in such a way, we traveled together for sixth grade. So we got to know each other. We got to know each other's families. I went to their houses. They came to my house. And when they came to my house, they ate my food. And when I went to their house, they ate their food. So I kind of grew up in a world that was looking internationally in a very different way. So the thing that's interesting about it is I now look at you and your generation, Mr. Big B Brandon, okay, and I see you all doing things like, oh, I'm going to do remote working from Thailand, or I'm going to go backpacking in the Andes Mountains, and it's like, yes, because that's the world that I kind of got raised for. I didn't necessarily get to do it all because I had to be at work. I couldn't work remotely.
Understood.
But I got to kind of blaze a little bit of a trail for that. So that's kind of how I got into the international and the food and all of it. Long answer to a short question.
No, that's fine. I love it. So what is originally home for you?
I am a native New Yorker.
Uh-oh.
New York City, New York City girl, you know.
So you're a Mets fan? Or a Yankees fan?
Ooh, I'm not going to say that on the radio.
Okay, I won't gonna say it. All right.
It'd be burning baseballs on my front doorstep. No. Oh, no. And don't go into the basketball because I ain't doing that either.
I won't say a thing.
As they said on those old maps, around the time of Columbus at the edge, before they knew to put Americas here, they used to say when you got to that edge, there be dragons. So I'm not going there because there be dragons.
Since you have brought that up, I usually save this question to the end. I had a chance to take a group of students to New York that had never been
Okay.
at one time. This is in maybe 2000, 2003. And they were from North Carolina. And we came downstairs and they were able to eat. And while they were eating, they scooped up this white material to put on their plate, thinking it was grits. But it was cream of wheat.
Ooh.
And so they said, Mr. Avery, this ain't grits, man. What is this?
It's called bad breakfast.
And I said, it's cream of wheat. It's a little different north. So my question to you is, did you grow up eating grits or cream of wheat?
Both.
Really?
And I knew the difference.
Okay.
Okay, because what I had was, my mother was kind of about porridges. So I grew up eating cream of wheat.
Okay.
There used to be something called wheatina that was
really?
like a brownish cream of wheat that was more sort of raw grain, if you will.
Okay.
Sometimes on weekends we'd have grits, you know. But I had all of it, oatmeal,
Yes.
you know, because it was like, it gets colder up there than it is here.
Yes,
You're getting ready to
yes.
send your child to school. You want to know she got something in her stomach that's going to hang in there until lunchtime.
Right.
So that was the cream of wheat, wheatina grits. Now I got a question for you.
Yes.
Sugar or salt?
Grits, salt,
Thank
and
you.
some butter.
Thank you. Thank
cool.
you.
Okay.
'Cause
So now
sugar
that was the question I was
sugar
gonna
is
ask
just
you.
wrong.
You know what? I gotta.
Are we okay?
Thank you so much, Dr. Harris,
is
for answering this
wrong.
question. Now you talking about
Now, maybe a little crumbled bacon or a little bacon fat
Yes,
in there.
yes.
Okay.
yes,
A dash of hot sauce if
Right.
you need it. But sugar just wrong.
right. Thank you. Because on the box it says that's for cream of wheat.
That's just
Thank you so much,
that's
Dr.
just
Harris
wrong.
has answered the question.
Well, I know there are people out there going, "Oh, she's so
No,
wrong."
we're
but it's
talking
like,
about 3-time
Okay.
James Beard Award winner said sugar is not for grits. I just wanted, we're going to make sure
Well,
that's
let's
in
not.
there.
No, because I'm gonna make some enemies. Because there are a couple other things that sugar is not for, like
That is-
cornbread. But let's not
Yes.
go there. It ain't cake.
amongst all your travels, and I know this was probably hard, where did you find some of the most tastiest food?
Oh wow. Boy, well, I lived in France for 2 years,
Okay.
so certainly that's almost a given.
Okay.
Almost. But that's European.
Yes.
And that's kind of a standard answer that everybody will hear.
Okay.
But here's where it gets a little more interesting. I've told people that my stomach, which is starting to growl just thinking about it, loves the food of Benin in West Africa.
Really?
My stomach loves the food of Bahia in Brazil. My stomach loves the food of Senegal in West Africa. I have spent an awful lot of time in the Caribbean and was just in touch with a girlfriend from Guadeloupe literally this morning, and my stomach loves the food of Guadeloupe, and I'm going to be growling like, you know, Leo the lion in a minute if I keep this up. But those connections that we have, you want to talk about some good food, yes, North Carolina barbecue. Don't start. Don't start, because it'll be going.
Right.
But have some Puerto Rican lechon. Or have some Dominican chicharrón de pollo, which are like chicken crackling.
Oh, really? So it's fried hard?
It's fried, it's crunchy, it's a different thing.
Okay.
And a good thing.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, when you go around and you try to taste some of these foods of the African diaspora, not only are they delicious, but somewhere in the back there's like, that got a little bit of grandma in it. You know, you can begin to taste some of the similarities, and that literally is how I started doing what I do.
Amazing. That's amazing. Now, I've been to a French restaurant several times, but every time I get a little upset because there's not enough food for me.
Oh, that's because
It's art. But it's good though.
no.
It's good.
No, I gotta, I gotta answer for everything.
Yeah.
You're
So
beginning
tell
to
me, why
learn
is
that.
so many,
Why they
the
eating so
portion's
little?
so small.
That's because you're going to fancy French out of Nouvelle Cuisine stuff. France basically has two sort of trains running of food.
Right.
One is called La Grande Cuisine, big cooking. The other is called La Cuisine Bourgeoise, which would be bourgeois cooking.
Right.
Now, Grande Cuisine is usually based on the codifications of a man named Escoffier, and it goes back. And Escoffier is the person who came up with the idea that a kitchen should be run like an army. So you'll hear people talk about a brigade de cuisine, a kitchen brigade.
Okay.
And so everybody's got a rank.
Right.
And the chef is in charge. And then you get the sous chef, and that's like all of the ranks in the army.
Right.
That's Grande Cuisine. But I have said publicly, when Escoffier went home to dinner, he probably expected his wife to have a meal on the table. That would be La Cuisine Bourgeoise, which is comfort food. And that's where you get good-sized portions.
Okay.
When I go to France, I studied in France. I have a degree from a university in the east of France. And one of the dishes that they do is choucroute, sauerkraut. Now, you gotta like sauerkraut.
Okay.
It's not just a little something that goes on top of Frankfurt.
Right.
So this is this huge mound of sauerkraut.
Okay.
But in it are cooked frankfurters and sausages, and there's a big old ham hock on the top of it. And the restaurant that I go to puts a ham hock on it that is like, Porky the Pig's big brother. And that's one portion. I can't eat it.
Okay.
I can't eat it all. So it's not always these little, fancy things that 8 million little small, delicate hands have arranged with tweezers. No. There are different kinds of French food.
I'm glad you broke that down for us.
Okay.
I needed that because I was like, I'm not going to a restaurant.
Okay, the next time you go to a French restaurant, see if you can find something called cassoulet.
Cassoulet.
Cassoulet it's duck,
Okay.
it's white beans, and they're all sort of cooked together, and it got a little sort of, sometimes it kind of look crisp to it, sometimes, but it's a big old, it's several scoops. It's not just a little bit.
Got you. We, referring to tasting food and in the back of your mind saying, I think I tasted this before. It's something like my grandma put together. In your travels, do you see the culture of food like in the African American household where we all got together and went to grandma's house on Sunday because we knew she was cooking a big spread. And that was the time for us to not only eat well and eat, some great food, but also sit down socially and talk about things that were going on in the family, things that were going on in the community. Do you see that throughout when you were traveling?
I kind of do. I mean, our meals are, or have been, because I think it's something we're losing, and I think there's an incredible danger in that. But our meals have been our communion, literally. And if you think about it in terms of religion, what is communion but a meal? Take, eat.
Right.
It's a meal.
Right.
So it's the sustenance of a meal. It's the commensality of a meal. That commensality is the coming together to commune over food.
Yes.
It's that thing that has, I contend, allowed us to remain us. Despite, 8 million odds, and we know what those odds are.
Yes.
But that sitting down with grandma, that getting the wisdom of the elder into the ear of the younger, don't do that. That's not table talk. Act like this. Don't do that to your brother. That's not how you act. Y'all brothers. All of that kind of stuff that happened around the table is part of what sustained us. And part of what I contend we need to maintain, because when we lose it, we lose us.
Agreed.
And you can see that throughout the African Atlantic world.
Wow. That's amazing. So, High on the Hog, you wrote the book, and did you get a call? Did someone say, "Oh, I read this book by Dr. Harris. We should do a series on this"? What happened?
Okay, well, what a lot of people forget is that High on the Hog was written and published in 2011,
Okay.
and the show came out in 2021.
Right.
So there were several years after the book came out, and it was what they like to call a critical success. That means my mama, who unfortunately had died by then. It means my good friends bought the book and not too many other folks. Okay.
Gotcha.
But among those folks who bought the book were two people, and they actually bought the book because somebody brought the book to them, and unfortunately I am going to forget his name because he's a part of the story.
Okay.
But he brought the book to them and said, "You two need to read this book." Their names are Fabian Toback and Karis Jagger, and I get to say this because it now means I have 1 degree of separation from Mick Jagger, because
wow.
Karis Jagger is Mick Jagger's black daughter.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And they are the producers, the executive producers, who
Okay.
said, "We want this to be a television show." And then they went on to move it forward. They went on to find Roger Ross Williams, who is an Oscar-winning documentary filmmaker. If you've seen the 1619 Project,
Yes.
that's one of his projects. He's done a lot of them, and I'm going to forget the name, so let me just leave it there.
Okay.
He's got a company called One Story Up, and they were the production company
Okay.
that did High on the Hog.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how it happened. And then they did all of the grunt work, if you will, and took it to Netflix. And then, worked and pushed and labored long in the vineyard to get biblical about it until Netflix bought it as a series. And that's how it happened.
I remember, I guess we were still trying to come out of COVID, and I went to a conference in Atlanta, and I was sitting, waiting for my plane to get there, and I said, "I'm gonna download this," and I downloaded High on the Hog and watched it on the plane. I was like, "This is amazing," especially when you talk about the Collards, the relation of the Collards, and I forgot what country you were in.
Okay, it's, am I speaking me?
Yes.
Because
yes.
I'm only in one episode, so it has.
It's you.
It
It's
has.
you,
Though, if I'm
100%.
talking, it has to be
Yeah.
in Benin, in West Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were talking about there's a cuisine that they had that reminded you of Collards.
Well, they do a sauce feuille. They do what they call
Okay.
a leaf sauce, and
Okay.
it very much is, but it's not a collard green. I'm going to talk about that tonight.
Tonight? Great,
Yeah.
great.
And so, yeah, and I mean, there are dishes that are absolute, if you will, ancestors of stuff that we eat, and I'm going to talk about that tonight as well. So
Amazing. Amazing. I want to thank you. I'm going to give you this. You're going home this evening, and you're going to cook a meal. I'm coming over to hang out with Dr. Harris. What do you throw on? What do you throw in the pots?
what am I going to do? Well, there are a whole lot of different ways that could go.
Okay.
I could do something like, I like to roast things.
Okay.
So I could do a leg of lamb
Okay.
and do a leg of lamb with vegetables. I'm not somebody who loves sauces.
Okay.
So I don't mind a sauce on the side, but I don't want it, just give me my food, just give me my food. I dip it in a sauce if I want a
Right,
sauce,
right,
but
right.
I don't need, you don't have to play with it for me. I
Gotcha.
can play with my own food. So I might have some snow peas or something like that, stir fried with garlic, or string beans that I blanch and then, sort of saute slightly in butter with garlic. I'm big on fresh garlic.
Okay.
I do, if I'm cooking a leg of lamb, one of the things that I do would be cook it on a bed of potatoes and sweet potatoes.
Oh, wow.
So that it's getting the lamb drippings. Because lamb, sometimes you need a rack so it can get,
Right.
instead of a rack, I use the potatoes.
Oh, wow.
I use the potatoes, and sometimes I'll even cut garlic bulbs, the whole bulb.
Yes.
Just cut them and do roasted garlic along with that. So that might
Wow.
be something you might have for dinner.
Okay.
But if I'm feeling like I got some time and I want to go the other side of my spectrum, I might do what is my kind of good luck dish, which is yassa ganar, which is a Senegalese dish.
Okay.
It's chicken yassa.
Okay.
You'll hear chefs talk about infusing flavor. When you infuse flavor, you're trying to get more flavor out of things. So marinating is a way of doing it. Adding sauces and whatnot. So chicken yassa, which is from Senegal,
Right.
is chicken that is marinated in lemon juice with onions. So you've got lots and lots of sliced onions and
Right.
lemon juice, a little peanut oil. Then you grill it, so you're getting a little of the char, from the barbecuing and the grilling.
Right.
Then you stew it. So you're getting that deep flavor, then flavored again through the stewing. So you've got 3 different processes that are infusing flavor, and you serve it with white rice. So that'd be the other possibility. And there's hot chili in there, so it's got a little
kick
chili
to
bite
it.
too.
Ooh, you heard it here first. We're going to Dr. Harris's house for dinner. That's what I'm saying. Thank you for coming on In the Booth with Big B. We appreciate you. Thank you for being here in Wilmington and at UNCW. And we look forward to hearing from you later on tonight.
Thank you so much, Big B. You
Thank
take
you.
good care. Be well.
You know what it is. In the Booth with Big B with Dr.